I'm the liaison to the sheriff's office. I don't supervise the sheriff's office. I try to support them, and I have a good relationship with the sheriff and the office. Many qualified people will not seek positions because of the electoral process. Unfortunately, even in Kootenai County, where the majority of us are Republicans, it becomes a blood sport. Not a discussion, not a debate. The cost and personal exposure are more than most qualified candidates want to bear. It's unfortunate. There's an accountability gap as a result of no effective supervision of elected officials by anyone. You could argue that that's what elections are for. But in the meantime, what do we do? Look at us on the national level right now. I mean, we have, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. We don't have a liberal in office as president. We have a neo-Marxist in office. We do. And we are going to suffer for that. We have an opportunity in 2 years to do the best we can to stop that. By getting people elected to the Senate and the House, to slow this thing down, to stop this. But we can't do that today. We have to suffer through this. And it's very hard. Frankly, I supported Trump, absolutely. There was no doubt that he was, look at the work he did in 4 short years. And now, many Republicans in and out of Washington have turned on the man. That's not right. I know. She said, not us. Amen. Term limits protect lame duck officials for up to 4 years. If last elected during a presidential election, they are virtually untouchable. The threat of removal by the recall process is not realistic. And if you agree with somebody, that's wonderful. If you don't, you're stuck with any elected official. How many know, and I'm not going to ask anybody, but how many people know the names of the 9 elected officials in Kootenai County? I mean, it's really kind of, yeah. Rodriguez does, Jim? Okay. I know, and it's just one of those things that we take county government for granted when we shouldn't. Lack of budget controls and elected officials add costs. Appropriations cannot be carefully controlled, nor can individual elected officials be required to conform to many county-wide standards. We can't make them do anything, other elected officials, that is the Board of Commissioners can, unless we cut off their funds. And if we do that, we're going to end up in a big fat lawsuit. That's where our authority begins and ends. Right now, we're in the middle of a budget process. And thanks to Dina over there, raise your hand, it's okay. She makes it easy for us to understand the budget process, which is very complicated. Back in 1890, I think the budget was a few $1,000s. The good old boys sat around the pickle barrel and decided what the policies for the county were going to be. Today, our budget is going to be, I believe, over $100 million. $100 million. And you have to be careful when you're spending that kind of money, that you're spending it efficiently and properly. These are taxes, these are other people's money we're spending. A diffused, splintered executive authority, like the elected officials and the commissioners, is inconsistent with the county's needs to act as one entity. There are many situations where we need unity in action. Authorities outside the county can hold the county entity responsible for actions of the individual elected officials, whereas no one within the county government structure has the authority to control the actions of any individual elected official. Like it or not, we have new judges in Kootenai County. And now, people are talking about we need a $20 million building to put them in, among other things. $20 million. And one elected official said, we're gonna get this through the levy. People will vote for it. And if they don't, we're gonna take it through foregone taxes. And I will never, ever vote for foregone taxes. And foregone taxes means we gave people a 0% tax increase last year. We could have gone 3%, so we're gonna go back and take that 3% in addition to this year's taxes. That's called a clawback. I will never vote for that, ever. We need to find another way. But to say that we're gonna do it this, we're gonna take your money this way or this way, I won't go along with that. And I'm glad I have what?
You had an agreement with Carla to speak about this new structure.
No, I did not.
Mr. Brooks, would you please talk to us about the new form of government?
I don't think there is a new form. What new form are you talking about? No. There's many more than that.
Yes.
There's many more than that. That's the one you put up there.
Sir, this is the one that's on your website.
It's on my website, but that's not the
Yeah, I
one.
took that.
That is not the one. That is one choice of many.
Okay, I understand. Now, I really appreciate you being here, and could we ask you some questions regarding maybe not this form of government,
Well,
but
let's
just
go-
the proposed?
Let's go through how
The
many forms
change.
of government there might be.
Could we please ask you some questions?
About those forms of government, and I'll
Okay.
answer as well as I know.
Let me just ask you this one question. What is so wrong with the form of government that we have right now? Okay, what is wrong with the form of government that we have right
Let's
now
start-
that
let's-
makes you
let's
wanna
start.
change?
There are
this?
3 equal commissioners. Do you know any organization,
is there popcorn?
military, governmental, or private industry that has 3 equal CEOs? You can't name one. And that's the world I live in. I can't talk
Thought
to
they didn't
Chris
have much power to
Filios
begin with.
or Leslie Duncan, because if I do, it's considered a quorum. And we have to notice the meeting ahead of time, invite the public, and that's the interpretation of the county attorneys. That doesn't work for me.
Didn't you choose it though? Did you not choose that? Did you not know what you were running for when you were?
I
elected
did,
to office?
and as soon as I did, I said, we need to change this. I've been talking this way since my first joint chamber of commerce. That we need 5 or 7 county commissioners, so that we can really talk to each other. And that's nothing new. If you've been following me, you know that's nothing new.
Okay,
If
now,
that's the open
Bruce had-
meeting law.
Bruce had a question.
Yeah. I think part of the reason about being able to talk with each other, which I totally understand, is that Idaho is very serious about having transparency for its citizens. And that's why they have that open meeting law, which says, look, if you want to talk about it, do it in a way that people can see that. And that way you avoid the backroom deals. Now, if you have 5 commissioners, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. With 5 commissioners, okay, now one commissioner can talk to another commissioner, and he can just talk to one at a time to lobby him to, you know, go for a particular proposal or to go against it. But in some respects, you know, there's always a trade-off. And in this particular form of government with 3 county commissioners, the trade-off is that you don't get to speak to each other unless it's in an open forum where the public can see it. And that's really, I think, part of the problem is that you look at government nowadays, there's so many backroom secret deals that go on, and then in public, it's like, well, I can't do anything about that. That's their, you know, they're in charge of that. And I think that's part of the reason why people are very favorable to the current form of government. And I think in the end, they just want to understand, what is it that led you, like, where'd you go, okay, now I have to, let's have this discussion for a 3rd time. And, you know, here's why I want to have the discussion, because of this problem. And, you know, it is true on your website, you do have the one, because you and I have gone back and forth a
I
little
have an
bit
entire
about.
paper
Yeah.
Okay. and
Yeah,
that-
well, and I read that whole paper,
Okay.
you know, and I read the entire thing about it. And that paper is from a study back in the 90s,
Yes.
where most of the emphasis was on that new proposed form with a county manager, and very little discussion about the pros of the existing form.
Right.
All cons and then all pros for this. And I think the big thing that people are really concerned about today is the fact that they want their elected leaders to be accountable to them. In any kind of an appointed position like the sheriff, I mean, I would never have gotten, I will do everything I can to make sure our sheriff is an elected official. The same with the prosecutor. Look at what these prosecutors are doing throughout the country, you know? And the biggest problem I have is mayors who go, I lived in Baltimore for a while, okay? So what did the mayor do after Freddie Gray? She fired the police chief, right? Oh, problem solved, get a new police chief in, but the problems are never solved that way.
Well, this is not Baltimore,
No, it's
and
not.
that structure is not relevant to the
I said that for a fact.
Okay,
I said
well.
that for a fact, okay? The point being is that when you appoint people, you know, I mean, look, I run a company, I know how it works. If there's a problem with my company, well, I fired that person in charge of that business. I mean, I could do that, and then that gives me political cover to say I didn't know that. But when you're elected, you know, you can't, you
How
don't
would
have
your
that.
company run if there were three of you trying to make a decision?
Well, first of all, that's a private company.
I know.
Okay, and the constituents to me are my customers, so what they care about is what they're getting delivered. They don't,
You still go through decision-making processes.
yeah, but they don't vote me to be in charge of the company.
No, but you have to
know?
make decisions.
I understand that, you know, but the point being is that, you know, earlier today, you kind of did say, well, I'm just a commissioner and I don't have a lot of authority. But then you say we're three CEOs. So a CEO to me suggests that you have an immense amount of authority. And I think what they really wanted to do with this form of government was create a tribunal for these particular issues that the county commissioners face. And they didn't want them to have the opportunity to speak, you know, amongst each other behind closed doors to come out with proposals or votes on particular issues. But I don't want to hijack this, and I'm sorry, and I really appreciate your time, Bill. I know we had a little back and forth here, but I don't
Okay.
want to do that, so thank you.
That's what I want in this whole process, is back and forth. I want people to discuss this. If at the end of the day, people say, we like it the way it is, I'll support it.
Yeah, right the way it is.
When the people of Kootenai County say, we like it the way, excuse me, if we're gonna do a shout out, I'm not gonna participate.
No, I'm just saying, when you're done, I would like to.
I'll be happy to call on you. The problem is that there are many people who don't want to have this discussion. And that's not acceptable to me. If you don't like me because I want to discuss things, then I guess we have a real problem. Go ahead.
Okay, my question is, hasn't this been brought up 2 other times?
To what?
Hasn't this been brought up 2 other times?
It has been, and here's
Why
what.
are we discussing it again?
Well, because the other times, in my humble opinion, as they say, it was not well discussed.
It's not well discussed now.
It's not even started.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody in this room wants it. A lot of people have talked to me and said they do want it. Go ahead. You're waving out there. Go ahead.
I've been to many commissioner meetings as per,
I can't hear you.
Okay, I've been to many of the commissioner meetings to oppose many things that have been presented, and I'm here today. I have 5 kids at home, an extra one that I'm working with. I homeschool all of them. So yes, it takes time to come to these meetings. And the last time I went to that commissioner meeting, my friend Amy and I, we talked to you, and you said that you wanted to have commissioners over certain areas and then have a city manager. And you would be that city manager. And you were a city manager before.
That is not what I said.
Well,
Now, either you really misunderstood what I said, or you're making this up.
you
I'm
drew a
sorry.
diagram for us.
That is not what
You
I
drew a
said.
diagram.
That is not what I said
Okay.
at all.
Well, Well, no, this was after the meeting. We talked to him after the meeting.
There's a lot of misinformation being
Okay.
intentionally promulgated, or it's being out of ignorance promulgated. I don't know which.
Well, one thing I would like to say though is that, again, look at what happens with appointed people. Panhandle Health District, nobody can get into those meetings, they don't talk to anybody, and it's very hard to get people like Jay Nelson or McLandris or people that are big proponents of violating our rights out of there. So every time you appoint people, like it was mentioned before, it is very hard, you can just, whoever's in power can either appoint people, not appoint them, and it's very hard to get them out. But at least even if you get a bad representative that was elected, at least they were elected by the people, and they have to be the people have to face the consequences for the bad people that they elected. But when you appoint people, that's just putting power, that's more like centralized government putting power in the hands of another person instead of the people.
Just the fact that you call it appointing, it's completely different. Let me, please.
That's fine.
They would be hired under some of the forms of government. Hired. A nationwide search, and we might come out with somebody as qualified as Steve Matheson, or somebody like Bob Norris.
Thank
We'd have-
goodness he's elected.
We'd have a much better chance.
But the thing is, and I'm totally for discussion, but also you have to remember, this is something that you are promoting. And it's important to be careful with what you're promoting, because what you're promoting is more centralized government
No.
people making
No, I am not.
decisions.
I am proposing that we have a discussion. And you made it very clear that you don't want a discussion.
We do have some questions that people have asked, and they're in writing. So we're gonna go with those ones first. I'm sorry.
No questions. I just want to say that we hired you and we'd like you to listen to us. And the second thing is we are not a democracy, we are a republic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I mean, like I wish we could all, like we could have this discussion but we do have questions, and I would like to stick to the questions that were in writing, and Mr. Brooks, if you would please
Bill.
just listen, Bill. If you would please just listen to the questions and see if you can answer those.
And some of the topics were redundant, so I'm trying to consolidate them. Why did the commissioners' discussion result in only special interest groups on the study committee?
They're not, we changed that. We have whoever asked that question has old information.
Were any regular citizens included?
Yes. And of the 9 that will be forming this study commission, we want people who maybe want to change and people who don't. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify that my understanding, and this is like per the last bylaws that were approved, you assigned one person, and then Leslie Duncan assigned one person, and then Mr. Filius assigned one
Yes,
person.
that's correct.
And then those 3 people are going to be the ones that assign.
They interview people.
Well, but they will
They
decide
take
ultimately.
applications, they will then send that to us.
Okay.
And we will decide if those people are the people we want on
Okay,
the
thank
study
you.
commission.
So, yes, and I had somebody ask me this, and this is a complicated issue, so I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. So these 9 members of the study are going to be the ones who decide which type of government.
No, they're the ones who recommend.
Okay, they the ones that recommend which type of government we should change to, and then that is going to be going on a ballot.
That's correct. Or no change at all.
Who are
Okay.
the 3 appointed individuals to the ad hoc committee?
Who are the 3 appointed? Who are the 3 appointed
I think
individuals?
Leslie appointed Mark Eberline,
Yes.
and Chris appointed Nancy Pluff, who's our statistician at the county, and I appointed Dan Dugan.
So those are the 3 people that are going to be presenting applications to the commissioners.
It is frustrating attending public meetings to provide discussion and community feedback, yet there's a disturbing trend to approve the controversial program. Case in point, the Transit Center. There was a great opposition to it, yet it was approved. This proposed city management is similar. The greater citizenship is strongly opposed. Like before, I feel it will eventually be approved. Please comment.
Well, number one, I was against the transit center from the beginning. The whole idea of a free bus in Kootenai County disturbed me greatly. And when I asked about it, some of the people when I was running, I said, what about that? And they said, well, we're gonna start charging for it. And I said, well, that's not really a good answer. I don't think we need a bus system that has limited use in Kootenai County. And then I saw what they built, the transit center. And I went over there this last winter on one of the coldest days. It was 15, 20 degrees, and the wind was 20 miles an hour. It was miserable outside. And there was some guy standing there on his crutches because he had 2 aluminum legs. And I said to him, why don't you go inside and get warm? He said, oh, they don't let us in the building. That building, I don't know if you know it or not, is not open to the public. That's wrong. I'm against that.
Let me clarify that question. That question was, that got pushed through. How come this one won't be pushed through as
Because
well?
there'll be more people involved, which will be regular citizens, and then we'll go for a vote. I'm the one who introduced the advisory vote on the prison release center. I pushed it through. The other 2 commissioners were not terribly in favor of that. And I convinced them that that was something we needed to hear from the people. And over 78% of the people in this county said, no, we don't want it. Well, so far we haven't seen it, but that spoke loudly to the people in Boise, the governor.
Yeah, and you did a great job.
I'm glad it is.
If the wrong person gets into office, what will be our recourse? Who's gonna fire this person? We count by a vote.
Well, what do we do with Biden? I mean, you know, what we do when the wrong person gets in office is excuse me, I'm sorry. If you guys want to talk amongst yourselves, I'll be quiet. What we do is we go in this process, this democratic republic that we have, and we vote them out. And we work as hard as we can to make sure they can't do the things that we don't want them to do.
Not if they're not elected. Not if they're not elected.
Well, you said elected people.
No, it's appointed or hired.
Hired.
Yes.
Okay, then you put pressure on your elected people.
That's just one more layer.
No, it isn't.
We lose our direct opposition
Can you go out and fire Bob Norris?
at the next election.
Okay, well, you can do that, but right now, you can tell the commissioners, I don't want him there, he's doing this wrong, get rid of him now.
We did that with the panhandle and look what's happened.
And-
We're not the panhandle, Beverly.
You could get
We're
rid of
not the
elected
panhandle.
Setting up the same.
No, we're not, it's not the same. Panhandle needs 5 counties to agree to do something, which is a ridiculous way to do anything in the beginning. 5 counties, people say, you need to get rid of Dr. McCandless. Well, you know what? I need to convince 3 people, a majority of each county to go along with that. And they don't want to do that. So panhandle is not analogous to what we're talking about. It's just not.
Another question, the people have already said no twice. Why are we still talking about a county manager? How is that supporting the people?
Nobody's talking about a county manager. That's one of the many forms of... Excuse me, am I interrupting somebody? Please. We're talking about, yeah, somebody else put that up, I didn't. Okay? That is 1 page of an 18-page report from the 90s. And I'm not gonna be held accountable to what somebody put up there or what they did back then. Okay? We need to have the discussion. There are people in this county who are just as passionate that we need to change the form of county government as you are, or seem to be, against it. And that's okay. You'll get a chance to vote and campaign and discuss.
How many emails have you received from people wanting to change the form of government?
I would say 50 that are actually individual emails. Now, the number of people who don't want the change, I've received about 100, I would say. And many of them are copies of other people's emails. But quite frankly, when people send me that kind of garbage, I don't pay much attention to it. Or, if all you do is cut and paste and send it.
Yeah, no, I understand. So how many individual emails would you need to receive in order to call out this study?
I'm not going to. I'm not going to call it off. I think we should discuss. Bruce.
Bill, in fairness, you just told us that if we had a problem with a county manager, that we could go to a commissioner and air our grievance about that. Well, here people are airing their grievance about this thing, and you're saying, I don't care what you have to say. I'm going to continue going forward. So, in many respects, you're illustrating what people are afraid of, which is to have an elected official say, I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm going to stand by this county manager when people are telling you I don't want to have this study.
Well, you have a very small universe in this room. I'm sorry.
Wow.
This is a small universe. Go, Brent.
Yeah, Commissioner Brooks, you say that this is going to be put to the electorate for a vote. Which would be a county-wide vote.
Yes.
Right? 70% of the people who live in Kootenai County live in the cities and are not directly affected by the county form of government. Only a third of the people, 30%, have that direct influence, and yet everybody will get to decide who the 30% answer to, or have answer to them. Do you really think that's a good idea?
I think it's the way our government works, Brent. That's just a fact. Elections have consequences, folks. They do. They do.
We're looking at one.
You will be going to the voters with a levy for a new building at the same time as asking the voters to completely change the structure of city government, county government. Basically, you are saying that we can't do our jobs, but you need to give us more money. Don't you think that will put the levy at risk?
Well, I don't think the levy is necessary, in my opinion. I think we need to live within our means, and asking for more money at this time is not a wise decision. That's mine. That's my feeling. And if we were to, if it goes on the ballot, even if I'm not in favor of it, because the other commissioners may be, if people vote against it, the word is out that we're gonna go foregone taxes and take your money anyway. I'm opposed to that.
If 3 commissioners working full-time can't stay informed, how do you expect more commissioners to be more informed, only working part-time?
Well, quite frankly, there's a commissioner that I have problems with. And that commissioner does homework. Unfortunately, that commissioner often gets the wrong answer, just like people that I was around in college. Just because you do your homework doesn't mean you have the right answer. I like to think that Bob, how many votes did you get?
I got the primary almost 10,000, 9,981.
In the general.
In the general, 70,000, 69,000.
And you were number 1, right? In the history of Kootenai County.
In the primary, yes.
And where was I?
You were number 2.
Number 2.
Could you share with us what you see as the negatives or problems with our existing form of government?
Get me in
I
this.
think they already have. The big one is communication between commissioners. Whether I agree or disagree with a particular commissioner, I like to be able to hear what they have to say. I like them not to lobby me, but to educate me, and I don't mind that. Think of how Senator Souza or Representative Amador would be if they couldn't talk to their colleagues about particular problems.
This is a follow-up to that question. You said that what you don't like is that the three of you can't communicate.
Mhm.
Okay? What about, do you like that us, the voters, get to vote for our leader?
Oh, in
Or law
terms of Bob
enforcement?
Norris?
Yes.
I do like that. I really do like that.
So do you
I'm
think,
very-
so do you not think that allowing the voters to vote for their elected representative, whether it's an assessor, a sheriff, county clerk, is less important than the three of you communicating?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You mean it's an either or?
Well, it seems that you, what,
I mean,
and correct me if I'm wrong.
you're setting up a false
No.
choice.
So like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. It's, because the question was, what do you not like about the current?
I just said,
Okay, which, you said that the three of you can't communicate.
right.
To me, it's more important that I get to choose my leaders versus the three of you communicating.
Okay, that's your opinion. I respect that.
So the question is to you, is that more important?
Do I agree with you?
No.
Why?
I'm asking the question. Is it more important for you that you get to communicate with your two counterparts versus being able to have a voice in who leads your county?
Whose voice?
The people.
Oh, that's essential.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it's essential. But I need to be able to communicate. These people are in for 2 and 4 years, and they make policies. They make mask policies. You know that?
So do you.
And I wouldn't do it, and another commissioner wouldn't do it. That's why we don't have a Kootenai County mask mandate, and I will never support a mandate.
Okay,
Ever.
we're gonna do one more question, because we're running out of time. Some of these are hard to read. The shift that is being proposed is a fundamental shift of the principle shifting from the authority of the voters to the authority of the individual, from democratic to autocratic. Could you comment on that, please?
I disagree. I think it's a flawed idea. It's not correct, and if anything you take away from this is I want people to have a choice. That's all. That's all.
Okay, so we are running out of time.